Hey everybody, it's your girl, Pajama, with Pajama Life, and welcome back. It is Chiefs. So we're gonna maybe not have as long as the show so we can watch the Chiefs. Chiefs win. So today we have a few really interesting movies for January, starting off the new year with Echo, the new series by Disney, The Holdovers with Paul Giamatti, and to celebrate MLK weekend, one of the most important but probably not as well known biopics of Bayard Rustin. So we're going to review that. And I couldn't do that without my buddies. These guys right here. David, say hello to the people, you guru of all things Star Wars and collectibles, you.
Well, thank you. Hey, everybody. Great to be with you on what has been a bit of a chilly night across the continental United States. Some of us a little colder than others, but we're going to warm our hearts talking about these programs. Maybe a little heartburn in between, but we'll see.
And Patrick, our professor of all things Marvel and Tolkien, say hey to the people.
Welcome to everyone watching the show from the wonderful, so frosty Kansas City area where I live. It is currently -5, feels like only -26. So delightful weather if you were on the Antarctic continent. But come enjoy us. We will warm you while we get through these. This is great. I got to go watch the Chiefs, so we're going to talk. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get started with oh shoot. Well, just start showing which one we're going to do first. Echo.
Don't be afraid. My father was killed also when I was 12 years old.
You're going to have a different life than me.
Filled with rage makes you blind. It can be used.
We almost die because there's a price on your head. You have to learn to jump between two forces.
You and I, we're family. No matter what.
All right, Patrick, can you give us some background and some flavor on Echo?
Well, now Echo is quite a bit different from the comic books to the series, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time messing. Well, I mean, because Echo gets some really ridiculously big powers later, but I really liked the current version that they went through with the series because it was a lot more grounded. It felt a lot like the Netflix series that they did with Daredevil and Iron Fist and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. Yeah, this was much, you want to fix the Marvel verse, this is how you do it. You start getting characters that are interesting. You don't worry about Cosmos ending problems. You develop people that you care about rather than what you've seen perhaps in several of the movies. I mean, give me a Kingpin every day over a Kang the Conqueror. I mean, Kang the Conqueror was just so way above godlike, I guess, for lack of a better word, rather than just a villain. And you've got some people that have some superpowers, but they're not like earth-shattering like Captain Marvel, type of powers. This was really good. I thought wonderful acting, good storyline. Like I said, great character development. You got to see some really underrepresented people, being shown and being seen, for real. I mean, you got to see not only a Native American protagonist, you also get to see a disabled protagonist. You got to see all this stuff going together and her still excelling and overcoming. It was a really inspirational series. I love this.
I didn't like it. I'm sorry, I didn't like it. I wanted to, but I just did not like the main character. I was really surprised at how they waited till the very last episode to kind of make her into maybe not quite a villain, but not quite a hero. And I just was not rooting for her throughout because I just couldn't connect the terrible thing she was doing to what this was. And I was just kind of like, huh? And it was like, and I know you really enjoyed the Netflix Marvel series, but those were very dark. And I just never got into them. And so this kind of, because I never like to just trash something. I did very much appreciate the Native American aspect of it and the hearing impaired aspect of it. And of course, Vincent D'Onofrio is as usual. He's amazing, and he was the saving grace. But I don't want to be rooting for Kingpin. And I think that's where they're going next is, a Kingpin / Donald Trump style running for office kind of protagonist. And I think, isn't Daredevil coming up? And they're going to be a reboot.
They're not. It's not necessarily a reboot, but it's a continuation of the Netflix series.
Right.
Is what they're looking forward to, and they're going to carry Charlie Cox again and Vincent D'Onofrio.
Right.
I mean, they're setting up some really interesting storylines. Have a redeemed villain because of the spoilers for anybody watching who hasn't seen this particular show. The healing powers that come from her ancestors, where she actually takes away the horrible drive of Kingpin, which, wow, there's some really interesting stuff going on. I mean, this is the most redemptive story arc, perhaps, or you might have a chance to do some really interesting stuff. I am super excited about what's going forward with this.
I'm not. So if it comes up, I'll watch it for Kingpin because I love what Vincent D'Onofrio is doing, but I don't really care to see her anymore. I don't like it. David, what you think? Oh, we can't hear you, David. You're on mute.
Here we go. I'm kind of in the middle between the two of you on this. I didn't hate it. I don't think I had the same excitement for this as say Pat did, but I do like it. Not thrilled about necessarily where Kingpin is going, but what Netflix did with the Marvel characters before Disney Plus, I'm glad to see that they continue. I think one of the real, without question, Daredevil was the best part of She-Hulk, so we're glad to see him come back in. And I am interested in this. I was surprised, not knowing the mythos as well as others. I remember her from the Hawkeye show, but wasn't necessarily expecting for there to be an offshoot of her own program. But I did think it was good. There is a darkness to it. I could not watch it on Disney Plus. I had to go to Hulu because Disney Plus said that my parental factors or whatever weren't properly set up, and I didn't know how to get back in there. So that was kind of a funny little moment, but Hulu didn't care who watched. So get your freak on with Hulu, whatever's on their After Dark programs. But nonetheless, I enjoyed it. Looking forward to some more of this as we go forward.
Okay, so it's a bit of a mixed review, but definitely you should be aware of the violence and the dark tone of this for parents. I don't think it's for little ones.
This was the first outing on the Marvel Searchlight, which is supposed to be kind of a little bit more of a Spotlight. There's a little bit more of a dark, more adult-oriented, perhaps. Not going to be as kid-friendly, perhaps. So I mean, they're doing what they need to do. I mean, I suspect Daredevil will eventually fall into this hole, or not Daredevil, as well as like Deadpool will be falling into these kind of things because they're having to carve a niche for the adults that grew up with it, like people like me who still have thousands of comics. and have always grown up with this, and it's always been, we've grown up, we're old. I'm old hell, and I'm getting to the point where I've been following like the Avengers for decades, so maybe the Avengers stories of my childhood are not as interesting to me as an adult who's had a little more world-weary experience.
Yeah. And but it's definitely something that and I kind of wish it had come out during Indigenous month, Indigenous Peoples Month too. Because that would have been nice to have something like this in that time. But check it out for yourself. Marvel's Echo. Okay, up next is the story of Bayard Rustin, and what it took to actually get the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom done. So something for the Martin Luther King weekend. Let's check it out.
Who's that?
Big famous Bayard Rustin.
In 41, you called for a large-scale march. The time has come for another. Do this, Dr. King. Own your power.
His attention-grabbing antics make him an easy target. And let's not mention the unmentionable.
A demonstration made up of angelic troublemakers such as yourselves.
Make sure you are there!
On August 28th, black, white, young, old, rich, working class, poor, will descend on Washington, D.C. We are going to put together the largest peaceful protest. How many bodies does it take to surround the White House?
How many? Sorry, I thought that was a setup for a joke. You literally want me to find out?
The day of your march, the entire D.C. police force has been mobilized.
What they really want to destroy is all of us coming together and demanding this country change. We are committed to the cause of altering the trajectory of this country towards freedom.
Oh, wow. It just gave me chills a little bit to see them walking down the streets with the placards and what that must have been like to see that. But I think this is a very interesting biopic of someone that really hasn't gotten their flowers or their due for what he did for the movement. A powerful figure. And as homophobia is indicative of every culture, some of that took place back then as well. And so it was an interesting look at and seeing Chris Rock and Jeffrey Wright in playing like kind of anti to type, and Jeffrey Wright is amazing in anything, but boy, after that I sure did not care for Adam Clayton Powell. I was like, no, but I guess it is kind of revealing more sides to people than what we normally know, and highlighting the importance of when disenfranchised groups come together, how much power they actually can have to change things as opposed to fighting amongst themselves. So it was a really very interesting look at it politically, but also in terms of some of the cultural things going on. I didn't realize, I thought this was written by an African American, but it's actually written by a gay white male. And so maybe that also helped to kind of focus some more on the LGBTQ issues in the story, as opposed to more of the civil rights aspect of the story. But it took me a minute to watch it, but once I did, Coleman Domingo is so amazing that he embodied this role. And there's another documentary about Bayard Rustin that you should check out. But I really enjoyed it. David, you're kind of our historian. on the panel. What did you think about it?
Well, I enjoyed this movie thoroughly. I have to say, and I was a history major in college. I love to read history and biographies and all pieces of American history. In the last few years, I've learned two names, and it's as if there's even more out there, and I'm humbled to know of how many people I don't know. I didn't know who this man was. Back in 2019, I learned who Alice Paul was, who was instrumental in the women's suffrage movement. So I had no idea who this man was that spearheaded this effort to have this in powerful historic moment, the March on Washington, and all of the different pieces that went into doing this. There's so much here. Tremendous performances. Coleman Domingo was fantastic. That was incredible. The whole cast, seeing people like Chris Rock play a serious dramatic role. Wow, that was great. Seeing the issues of race as well as sexual orientation and gender, all of those things kind of come into play. Really amazing. But what I got trapped on, what really just stopped me, was the thinking about the logistics. All the things that would make a day like that possible in an unwelcomed environment.
Yeah.
Bathrooms, security. I loved, and my favorite part in terms of the logistic piece of this was when they went through, talked about sandwiches. No, can't have two sandwiches.
Peanut butter and jelly.
That's right, because August, it's heat, it's going to melt. This cheese could go bad. Little things like that, I thought, showed a level of brilliance and organization.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking a little bit about The Imitation Game. Alan Turing, a mathematician who also happened to be homosexual, who was instrumental in, and we're not overstating this, in saving the free world from fascism.
Yeah.
And so you have two individuals who are unwelcomed, unloved, not embraced, ignored in so much of history, and their contributions to the betterment of
it could have been
world.
lost,
It absolutely was. And for me, if it wasn't for this film, it was lost. Now, did either one of you know that name before this?
Yes. There is I was looking, so pardon me for looking down, but I was looking at the documentary Brother Outsider.
Yeah.
It's on PBS, and definitely check that out because it talks about his life and his legacy and the things that he does. So definitely check out that. But yes, over the years, my church has been very active in LGBTQ issues, and so we had a day of talking about Bayou Rustin's contribution. So definitely, once you hear about it, then you're like, wow, this guy, just incredible guy. So definitely he's somebody we don't want to get lost to the sands of time. Pat, what did you think?
Coleman Domingo is, if you haven't seen The Color Purple, the musical version, he's an up and comer. And if you couldn't tell by this film, watch that one, and you will understand that this guy's the thing. Yeah. He's the next big thing. He's burst onto the scene. He grabs every bit of screen he's in. I was unfamiliar with the story, as a lot of people are, because we get taught what we get taught. And I live in the Midwest, so I am in the middle of people that generally don't believe in fire unless they're on fire, for the most part. But I loved this movie, and I was really impressed with it. And like I said, it was a new story. It was all the more impressive because it had happened for real. I was unaware of the struggles of, I guess I wasn't unaware of, but I was unaware of this particular instance. I'm sure that the LGBTQ community has always struggled and continues to struggle. Everybody that's not, white cis male, we got problems. They got problems. They're trying to catch up. So this was great to see how someone who was so instrumental in making this. Everybody knows about the Million Man March. Everybody knew about it. I mean, but I didn't understand how it came about. It was to see the nuts and the bolts of it, like David was talking about, was really fascinating. And to see this individual who history had forgotten, but now we've got a reckoning with that. That hey, maybe we forgot it because he didn't fit the mold of what we wanted. And now to see it come back, it's great. It was wonderful. I highly recommend this to everybody. Nothing inappropriate in any of it. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, and the things that he did, we're still using his techniques and tactics to this day. So you saw it in the recent strikes and the with the motion picture industry, and then following through. So there's power in our voices. So definitely Brother Outsider is someone we should hold in such high esteem, because Bay Rustin was a giant, and so now the forest is out of the way for us to see. So definitely check out Rustin on Netflix. Okay, especially this weekend. Do that if you're gonna sit around on Martin Luther King Day like I am. Watch Rustin. All right. Finally, it is Paul Giamatti once again being awesome in The Holdovers. Let's take a peek.
Sir, I can't fail this class.
Oh, don't sell yourself short, Mr. Coates. I truly believe that you can.
Every year at Barton Academy, students, faculty, and staff depart the campus for a 2-week winter break. But there are always an unfortunate few who have nowhere to go for the holidays. They're known as the Holdovers.
Mr. Hunnam.
Hello, Mary.
I heard you got stuck with babysitting duty this year. How'd you manage that?
I thought all the Nazis were hiding in Argentina.
Stifle it, Tully. That's another detention!
Do you think I want to be babysitting you? No, I was praying your mother would pick up the phone or your father would arrive in a helicopter or a flying saucer.
My father's dead.
I find the world a bitter and complicated place, and it seems to feel the same way about me. I think you and I have this in common.
I don't think I've ever had a real family Christmas like this before. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
David, what did you think of The Holdovers?
Oh, I was very impressed. It's very much an incredible period piece. It's a character-driven story where the 3 leads in this are brilliant. I want to make sure I get her name right. I've seen her in some comedies and all. She actually was in Rustin as well. But I believe it's Davine Joy Randolph.
I think so. Yeah.
I think that's her name. She was fantastic in this.
She was in Only Murders in the Building too.
That's right. She is in a lot of things, and Christmas and Office Christmas Party, which is a truly underappreciated movie. Don't try that at work. But it was beautiful. It was moving. It did a tremendous job. I hope it's up for an Oscar for its costumes because it brought January of 1971 into life, and it was just incredible. Paul Giamatti's fantastic. The 3 of them are great. The sadness, the issues surrounding Vietnam, the equity issues with the schools, and it is just a beautiful and poignant movie about, at some point, we all grow up. Even if we're near death, we all grow up. And this story had a little bit of that in my mind. But a wonderful film, and certainly something that I think if you appreciate good acting, that you sit down with a box of popcorn and you really give this one a chance.
Yeah, I think so too. Pat, what'd you think?
I loved it, but it felt, and I will agree about the costuming, and I would also go so far as to say set design and production design.
Oh yeah.
I mean the cars, the music, the feel. It felt like I was watching Ordinary People or something from that particular period. Is the way as far as
nice.
the titles, the credits,
Yeah,
and everything.
and it even sounds like the guy who used to do like, "Hey, did you see this movie?" You know, the announcer who used to do a lot of those movies. It even sounded like him.
Like I said, I mean, they really hit some really solid notes with the way that they were paying homage to the late 70s, early 80s. This particular ordinary, like I said, ordinary people want to keep the movie that the most made me feel like was Dead Poets Society. I mean, you have a particular professor totally changing the life of a couple of students because of his, either passion, perhaps in the Robin Williams example, or his curmudgeonliness in the Holdovers. But he was obviously a hard shell, soft center. Delightful. Paul Giamatti was great. I think everybody in it was, I mean, there was 3 characters that were constant throughout it, and I mean, it was a wonderful example of privilege and how some people, have terrible lives even if they have privilege. Delightful. I'm sure it's up for Oscars, but I would say the ones that really stood out to me, production design and costumes, really nailed. Absolutely wonderful. I think the acting was really great too. I haven't seen all the Oscar-nominated movies, so we'll have to see how it compares. But yeah, definitely worthy of several Oscars in there too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was really, Paul Giamatti is I just love him. I loved him in Billions. If you haven't seen that, fantastic seasons of that. And a little known movie, Shoot 'Em Up. I love him in that. He's just great in whatever he does. I have not seen him disappoint. But a couple of things that I did not kind of agree with in the storyline was his medical issue. I was like, well, that's just dumb. And then some of the story about Davine Joy Randolph's character and what happened to her son, I kind of was like, why put that even in there? But I get it because of the points they were, making, that her son was a student and should have been exempt from the draft because he was, on his way to college like the other boys who went to that school. But of course, because of racism, he got called up and then tragedy happened. But I kind of wish that it was a little bit different version of that story. But the acting is superb. Even what's her name? Carrie. I forget her last name, but she was in True Blood and she was in Claws.
Nice job.
And she's still just a sweetheart in this one. I love seeing her. So it was just like everybody just dialed up and dialed in. And what was that? Tune in, turn on.
Tune in, turn on, drop out. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, but none of them dropped out, baby.
The Burroughs Trail is literally a block from my house right now.
Yeah, so definitely a wonderful. It's not the happiest story.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it had bad notes, but it ended happy. I mean, this guy is growing. I mean, that was wonderful. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm just saying, if you look at the trailers, you would think that it's a laugh a minute, and it's not.
No, it's not.
So it's more of a drama.
Fair.
Yeah, so that's why I just want to say to people, it's more of a drama with some comedy, but a fantastic story, direction, everything. So definitely, I hope it's up for something in the Holdovers. Well, that takes us to the end of our show. It was so much good stuff. We actually went longer than I thought. So next week we will review Saltburn. I still don't quite know what it's about, but I heard it's a freaky story. And
Can't wait to talk about this. This will be delightful. I'm already I'm there.
And then we'll have something light with the family plan. So we'll see you next week. Pat, say goodnight to the people.
Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful week. Stay warm if you're in any part of this polar vortex, as it were, and go Chiefs.
David, say goodnight to the people.
Well, good night, everybody. There is some post-family planning in Saltburn, so that'll be a neat thing to see there. Look forward to talking with you next week. So long.
Yeah, we'll see about that one. But definitely check out the Chiefs. Chiefs. Tonight.
7-0 right now, in case you're wondering. 7-0, Chiefs are up. So let's
all right.
move it on.
Yeah. All right. So we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.
See you guys.